She's clearly one of the most successful and powerful women executives in the world, a best-selling author, an activist, and a young billionaire. It's such a pleasure to have with us Sheryl Sandberg, COO of the world's largest social networking site, Facebook. Sheryl, thanks so much for sparing time to talk to us here on NDTV.
Thank you for having me.
This is clearly not your first visit to India. You actually worked here. You started your career in India with the World Bank working on leprosy, but India has changed a lot over the years.
India has. I worked here with the World Bank from 1991 till 1993, and the growth of the economy, what's happened around technology around the world, how important India is to the global economy has definitely changed, and it's a pretty exciting thing to see.
India clearly one of the most promising markets for Facebook. The
yeah.
second largest number of users, 100 million Indians using Facebook, second largest next only to the United States. Do you actually see it becoming your largest market in terms of user base?
I think it should, because while it's the second largest in terms of the United States, there are still 1 billion people in India who have not yet connected to the internet and who will connect. And so what we see here is a really vibrant economy, a very active Facebook users,
right,
and really almost endless opportunity to grow.
But by when do you see this actually happening? The fact that Facebook will see India as its largest market in terms of user base. Any idea as to when you think that milestone could be achieved?
We'll see. I think it depends how quickly more people get access. And that's actually one of the things we're working on. We have a global partnership called internet.org, where we're very focused on helping bring the next 1 billion people in India,
right,
as well as other billions around the world online.
All right, let's talk about your India visit, and we're hoping that you're also going to be seeing Prime Minister Narendra Modi, someone who's absolutely social media savvy. The way Facebook was used during elections is absolutely unprecedented. Tell us a little more about your meeting with Prime Minister Modi.
So we thought it was really exciting what happened in the recent election in India. Prime Minister Modi has over 18 million Facebook friends,
right,
and he is now the second most popular politician in the entire world. And some of his posts, my personal favorite was seeking blessings from his mother,
right,
with that incredible picture, or his swearing in picture. What we're excited about is that he, along with politicians all over the world, are understanding that this is an opportunity to speak directly to your constituents.
Sure.
This is how you can have not just a one-way dialogue with people who are voting for you, but a two-way dialogue, where you can share and listen, speak and hear. It's pretty exciting.
And what's interesting is that he's actually made sure that his cabinet colleagues are using social media as well. It was almost a diktat given out saying that, yes, you need to be on social media, you need to interact with users out there. Is that an absolutely interesting development for a company like yours?
Oh, it's fantastic. I heard that he asked his finance minister to go on Facebook and talk about the plans to grow the economy, which I know is a huge issue here and around the world.
Right.
We think that matters. We think people want to hear from the people who are making decisions that affect their lives directly, and they want to do it in a way that they can interact. And so we're excited about the use of Facebook.
Right, but besides this, of course, what's your wish list in terms of policy changes you would like India to make? When you meet Prime Minister Modi, what are the couple of things you're hoping to tell him, things that would make it easier for Facebook to do business in India?
Well, what we say anywhere in the world where we're investing is that the right public policies, governments that understand economic growth, and governments that are making investments in the free and open internet, that's where companies like ours are going to invest. And India is not just a promising market for us, but it's one of our 4 global operations centers, because this is a great place to hire people, a great place with a thriving democracy that can contribute not just to our business here, but to our business all over the world.
So in terms of policy requests, we know that governments around the world right now facing huge issues with offensive posts, takedown requests, especially with the previous government. Facebook had a number of run-ins, not just Facebook, other internet sites as well, in terms of the number of takedown requests you get from a government for offensive posts. And the reasons in most cases are very genuine. Just last month, we had a very terrible incident of a 28-year-old man beaten to death in one of our cities, Pune, because of an offensive Facebook post. How is Facebook dealing with such issues? This is bound to come up in your meeting.
We strike a balance between free expression, which is the fundamental of what we do, allow people to express themselves, but also providing a safe and protected community. Our hearts go out to anyone who faces any form of violence anywhere in the world, and there's no tolerance and no place for violence or inciting violence on Facebook, and we take that responsibility very seriously.
But at the same time, India among the top countries when it comes to the number of takedown requests you get, removing those offensive posts from sites like Facebook. Is that a concern you're likely to bring up?
So our goal is to be very transparent with people around the world. We publish a transparency report saying this is how many requests we get. When we get a request from any government, the first thing we do is look very carefully at that request.
Right.
There are requests which are very legitimate and we comply. There are cases where we'll work very closely with law enforcement. And there are cases where we'll push back and say, we don't think that's appropriate.
All right, so it has to be a balance out there. I have to talk to you about monetization, the fact that India may have the second largest number of users, but when it comes to revenues, you're clearly not making much progress there. And probably part of your visit is also to ensure that you start monetizing that user base. India gets you users, it doesn't get you revenues. How do you intend to deal with that?
I think India will get us both. I spent Monday in Hyderabad meeting with some small businesses from around India who are using Facebook to grow their businesses one by one, employing people, really exciting. And then I spent yesterday in Gurgaon meeting with some of the largest Indian companies and global companies who are using Facebook to reach consumers. I think marketers are increasingly understanding that they need to speak to consumers where those consumers are. And in India, like everywhere in the world, people are increasingly on their mobile phones.
Right.
The average Indian with a mobile phone spends 3 hours a day and less time doing almost anything else. So it's a great opportunity for the largest companies in the world and the smallest to market, and we believe that will grow our business here.
All right, so clearly some revenues need to flow in, especially given some of the high-priced acquisitions that Facebook has been making. But let me move on. I have to talk to you about a huge controversy that's clearly making global headlines right now. The experiment that Facebook conducted, which many are even terming as a Facebook fiasco in many ways. The fact that Facebook used manipulated users' feeds to actually generate emotions. 700,000 users and their feeds were manipulated. In fact, the United Kingdom says that they will probe, and their data protection laws are looking into this.
So we clearly communicated really badly about this, and that we really regret. We do research in an ongoing way, in a very privacy protective way, to improve our service, and this was done with that goal. I think we are in communication with regulators all over the world, and this will be okay, and we will continue to make sure users understand that we care about their privacy, we care about their experience, and we want to do everything we can to give them the best experience they can.
At the same time, manipulating users' emotions is something that's obviously got privacy activists up in arms. And as a user, you worry the privacy concerns that you're talking about. When you go on Facebook, you don't necessarily want to know that perhaps your emotions are being manipulated by the company.
So we take privacy really seriously. We want to give people knowledge, be very direct about what we're doing. We want to give people control so that you choose to share and you choose to delete if you want. And we want to be transparent so people know what we're doing, and we're going to continue to focus on those things globally.
But would Facebook look at probably apologizing to those to users for the fact that they went ahead with an experiment without informing them? The fact that this is something which has hurt all those millions of users around the globe.
So Facebook has apologized and certainly never wants to do anything that upsets users, and particularly for communicating really badly in this case.
So was this experiment in many ways a mistake?
This was 1 week, and it was a small experiment. It has been communicated as an experiment to shift emotions. It's not exactly what it was. It was an experiment in showing people different things to see how it worked. And again, what really matters here, is that we take people's privacy incredibly seriously, and we will continue to do that and give people control and a great experience.
But the larger worries then is that if Facebook can actually control people's emotions, can Facebook swing elections? Will Mark Zuckerberg decide the future of a country? Can you swing elections?
I want to be clear. Facebook can't control emotions and cannot and will not try to control emotions. Facebook tries to give people the best possible experience. Facebook would never try to control elections. When you go on Facebook, what you see is from your friends and what they're sharing, and what they see is from you. And we work hard to help people share what they want to share, to help them do it in a privacy protective way. so that people can share and connect to each other. And that's really our mission.
At the same time, the results of this study were fascinating. The fact that if you're actually showing more negative emotions, you end up posting more negative feeds. So that's been, that the results are actually almost worrisome. Some have called them spooky.
I'm not a great social science researcher, but we all know that we react to the things we see, and that leads to some of the best things that have happened on Facebook. So for example, there was an Indian man, and he saw on Facebook that a friend of his needed a blood donation for his father. He posted on Facebook and he got it really quickly.
Right.
He then set up 8 Facebook groups, which were 8 different blood types to help donation. This led to the founding of socialblood.org, which is the largest volunteer donor base in the world. That came from here, from India, from seeing what people are doing. So we know we're impacted by what people share, and we want to continue to help people do that to create good in the world.
Cheryl, we know there are fascinating stories on how Facebook has impacted lives, and obviously it's the negative stories that make bigger headlines, and experiments like these that end up making bigger headlines. But I'd like to talk to you largely on how companies like Facebook, tech giants, are actually dealing with regulators around the world to deal with some of these privacy issues, to deal with data protection. Just last week there's been a European Union ruling that has actually got Google to ensure that the right to be forgotten is complied with, which means as a user I have the right to be forgotten. If I don't want certain posts to be seen online, that should be complied with. What's Facebook's view on right to be forgotten?
We are in legal compliance with all the laws and regulations here and everywhere do business in the world, including with the EU right to be forgotten. On Facebook, you can put up a post and you can delete it, so you have control.
Right.
What matters for people using Facebook or any product is that they have control and they are able to understand it. And so privacy is the cornerstone of our business. You know, if I wanted to take a picture of the two of us doing this interview, I could share it just with my mom, or given that it's going to be on TV, I could share it with the whole world. Or if I wanted to, I could share it just with the people on Facebook. But I make that choice, and I make that choice every time I post. And what we will continue to do is give people great tools so that they can share what they want with who they want to share.
All right, that's a very interesting point you've made, but what about when you don't have that choice? For instance, Facebook on its own doing things where users don't have the choice, and I'm sorry to bring up the experiment once again, but that's the time when you don't have the choice, or when others are posting certain objectionable content, and those are worries when users don't have the choice.
So if a friend posts something, we encourage people to socially report and ask people to take it down. If people post something that people have problems with, we have teams all over the world to deal with that. Importantly, we have something that is really very important, which is real identity.
Right.
On Facebook, people are doing things with their real name.
But fake profiles are a big worry as well for you.
And we work really hard to minimize those, and we have very small amounts of fake profiles. But this really matters. So we've seen news organizations who will have a lot of anonymous posts, and some of those can be quite cruel.
Right.
And some of them have gone to making all their posts with Facebook identity, so that means your real name and your real picture, and all of a sudden the posts get way more responsible and way more respectful. We believe that if people are sharing as themselves and it's public what they're doing, that that's a lot of reason to behave appropriately. And when that doesn't work, we have a very big commitment to keeping people private and safe.
Absolutely, and as someone who handles communications, public policy, perhaps one of the biggest challenges that companies like yours will face in the months and years to come is ensuring that users are comfortable and they feel safe, they know that their data is private. Do you see that as one of your biggest challenges?
It's really important because with any emerging technology, there's always fear. There was fear when the car was invented, there's fear when the phone came out, and it's up to us to make sure people understand it. And we work really hard at this. So we have been actually sending people who use Facebook notes if they're posting something that's public. We will send them a little post saying, this is public, do you want this to be public? Reminding them how they're posting. Over the years, we worked hard to make it very explicit. Right now, when you do a post on Facebook, there's a little icon, Globe for World, Friends.
Right.
And so you can see it right there, who you're sharing with and how you're sharing.
And of course, like many users around the world, parents extremely worried about teenagers spending way more time on Facebook than they should. What would you like to say to all those parents who are extremely worried about the hours that are being spent on Facebook?
Well, as a parent myself, I think worry is part of the job. We worry about our kids, what they do, what they say, what they eat, all of that stuff. But I think Facebook can be really important. We see schools using Facebook to communicate. We see students using Facebook to collaborate. We see volunteer efforts. I met a group of students from all over the world who were in Udaipur this weekend. And a lot of them were communicating on Facebook partially about their trip to come here and volunteer to help build a school. And so, like anything out there, there can be good uses, there can be bad uses, and as parents, we want to teach our kids to do the good uses.
But that is parental responsibility. There's little that Facebook, you'd want them to use it more, right?
We want them to use it responsibly.
Okay.
We're very clear on this, and we take our responsibilities, particularly with children, but with everyone, very seriously. We want everyone to use Facebook responsibly, and we hope it can make the world a little more personal, a little smaller, and a little bit better.
It's been absolutely a fantastic idea, an idea that many believe has been an absolute game changer for the world, Facebook and the innovation it's brought about. But what next? Many people worry about whether there's been a lack of innovation coming from many technology giants. What next for Facebook?
So we've just made a pretty big shift, going from a desktop company to a mobile company. We are now the most used mobile app on almost any platform, almost anywhere in the world. Certainly in India, our usage dwarfs any others, as it does in the United States. What's next? More sharing, more people connected. There are 1 billion people in India who are not yet connected to the internet.
But that doesn't bring in any of the innovation bit that we're talking about. We don't see many innovations coming your way. Will acquisitions be the way forward?
We've done a lot of innovation in India that we now export globally around feature phone use. A lot of people who first get phones get feature phones, and making our products work on feature phones wasn't something we were able to do even a few years ago. And so we've really innovated to make that work, and we'll continue to.
But jumping onto the so-called mobile bandwagon is something that Facebook has done very late. In fact, it's something that even Mark Zuckerberg has mentioned in the past has been a bit of a mistake, a bit of a disappointment. Would you agree with that? You should have seen the mobile opportunity way earlier.
Well, Mark has said that had we been started as a company, we're 10 years old, even a few years later, we would have been started as a mobile company. But we were started as a desktop company. And so we really had to transition. We had to retrain all of our engineers to do mobile programming. And that transition was hard. And I think we did see it coming late. But I think we're fully there. Our products are mobile. Our products are mobile first. We build mobile first. And I think that's really explaining the growth we're seeing in India and everywhere around the world.
But a Facebook phone, the Facebook Home experiment, many believe that is a project that you've shelved altogether.
So we will keep iterating and keep experimenting. And actually, there were parts of what we launched that are getting integrated into the product.
We have to talk about the mega WhatsApp acquisition, $19 billion for a company like that. Many people say you've overpaid. Some have even called the move desperate. How do you react to that?
Real-time messaging is really important, and WhatsApp is one of the very few companies in the world that's on a path to 1 billion users. Even since the acquisition, they've hit over 500 million users. They're hugely important here, everywhere in the world, and we're excited to work with them. We think it fits very nicely with what we do.
But what about all those analysts who say $19 billion was a bit much?
I think we'll prove them wrong.
All right.
It'll just take some time.
You are going to prove them wrong. That's interesting to know. I have to ask you something that one of our viewers has actually asked. We've been inviting questions from our viewers to ask you, and we've chosen one question which many people actually want to know. This question comes from Gibson Samuel, who asks that will Facebook ever introduce a dislike feature?
We continue to experiment, but we feel that the like feature enables people to show the support, and there's also commenting. Right? You can express what you want to express as long as it's appropriate on Facebook, because you can comment however you want.
But dislike isn't coming anytime soon. Let's talk now about Lean In, your book, which has clearly made a lot of waves. The fact that you're really encouraging more women to come into the workforce.
So I've been really blown away by the reaction to Lean In, but that's because women really want to have full lives just like men. We tell men all over the world that they can work and have children, and we tell women they can't, which is absurd since most women do work because they have to support their families. You look at the happiness of our families, it's better when people share responsibilities, and you look at opportunities for our children. I have a son and a daughter. I want them to have equal opportunities both professionally and at home. And right now, My son has more opportunities in the workplace and my daughter has more opportunities at home. And I think we're going to change that everywhere in the world because we have to.
It's important you mentioned that because especially you've talked a lot about stereotypes. I heard your talk even in Davos last year when you specifically mentioned the kind of stereotypes we all perpetuate. The fact that women at the workplace are instantly branded as bossy, aggressive, and men are termed as results-oriented, focused. It's important you've touched upon these issues. You're trying to actually ensure that we don't perpetuate these stereotypes.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Cultures are so different around the world, except on gender.
Right.
Where everywhere in the world I ask audiences, if you're a man, please raise your hand if you've been told you're too aggressive at work. You saw this in Davos, no hands.
Right.
If you're a woman, please raise your hand if you're told you're too aggressive at work. I did this yesterday here, every hand goes up. But we know actually in blind studies, men are more aggressive than women, and so this is about our expectations. And
right.
we have to stop calling little girls bossy, and instead we have to say, that little girl, she has executive leadership skills. I think we suffer from the tyranny of low expectations. We think it's okay. In the United States, in the last election, women got 20% of the US Senate seats, the upper house.
Right.
And all the newspapers said, women take over the Senate, women take over the Senate. 50% of the population with 20% of the seats is not a takeover.
Right.
It's a problem. And we need to expect that we are going to get to 50%, however we do it, everywhere in the world.
So is America getting its first woman president? Are you asking Hillary Clinton to lean in?
I hope America will get its first woman president. One of the reasons I wrote Lean In is my daughter learned the names in a song when she was 4 of all the American presidents. And her first question was, Mommy, why are they all boys?
Right.
India has had a female president and a female prime minister, which is fantastic.
Right.
But there are right now 18 female heads of state in the world in hundreds of countries. So my little daughter and little girls around the world are still wondering if that's for them.
All right. The question, of course, is will Sheryl Sandberg lean in herself? Are we going to see you joining politics one day?
I'm doing a lot of leaning. This is all the leaning I can do. But I really believe in what Facebook does around the world. And I really believe in what Lean In can do and the power of women and men coming together in circles. And I feel really good about it, and I plan to continue to do it.
All right, all the very best, Sheryl Sandberg.
Thank you so much.
For your visit here in India, for Facebook, and for you. Thanks so much. Such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much.